Okay, so today we're looking at the sine rule. And let's write a little definition for that first of all. Okay, so the sine rule is used to find the angles or sides in a non-right angle triangle if you have a matching pair, side and angle. You'll see what I mean by that in a second, okay? But this is the important part, okay? So the sine rule is used to find angles or sides in non-right angle triangles if you have a matching pair, side and angle. Okay, so get that down in your notes first of all. That's really important. So I'll tell you. Well, let's do this first actually. So the first thing. Let's write this here. The first thing we must be able to do is to label our triangle. So the first thing we must be able to do is to label our triangle. So I'll show you what I mean. Let's give myself a little bit more space here. So here I've got a triangle like so. It doesn't matter what that triangle is. Let's move it over a little bit here, just so I've got enough space. So there's our triangle. Now the way that we label this is it's always opposite to the angle, the side opposite to the angle, and the angle is always the capital letter, and the side is always a lowercase letter. So let me show you what I mean. So if this one here is capital A, opposite here is little a. I'll do a different one in another colour, so it's always A, B, C. This one here is capital B, and this one here opposite is going to be little b. And I'll do the last one. So this one here is capital C, and down here is lowercase c. And Mr. Adams' top tip, if you can, always label the side or angle you want as either capital A or little a. That's really important as well. So if you can, always label the side or angle you want as A or little a. That's really important. Let me just put a little highlighter around that one. There we go. So there's our first little parts. I'll give you a second to get that down. Just put your hand up when you've got that down. Put your hand up when you've got that down. I'm going to have to move on in a second. Okay. So, let's actually write down what the sine rule is. Now, this is really important, because this is actually what the sine rule is. And then once we know these two parts here, then it'll all start to make a little bit of sense and we can attempt a question. So this is the sine rule. Now there's actually two variations of it. They're both very similar, but if you want a side, the best rule to use is A over, I've done that wrong, sorry, is little a over sine of capital A is equal to B over sine of capital B is equal to C over sine of capital C. So that's if you want a side, that's the sine rule. Now you might think to yourself, well, what's this equals? Why are they all equals? It means that any of those can be equal to each other. Okay? We'll talk about that a little bit more later when we actually do a question. But also, if you're doing an angle, then you'd use this, but the easier to write it the other way around. So sine of A all over little a is equal to sine of B all over little b is equal to sine of C all over little c there, like so. Brilliant. So these are the actual sine rules, and you will need to remember these. These will come up. They don't come up in any formula booklet. You will need to remember both of these if we're doing a non-right angle triangle. There we go. So get both of those down. Okay, let's have a go at a question then. So we've got two questions here to have a little go at. I'm going to do the first one, and then I'm going to ask you to have a little go at the one on the right. Now there's some things that I need to do here before. So draw the triangle down first of all, and then I'll talk to you about some of the steps and the tricks that we use. So give you a second just to get that triangle down, and then I'll talk to you about all of the things that we need. So once we've done that, notice that we need to label our triangle. Now if I go back up here, sorry, I know that you're probably trying to get that down, but one of the things I said is that if you can, always label your angle or side as A. Okay, now this is important because it will actually help you. So I want this side here, which is X. So I'm going to label this as little a, which means that opposite the angle here must be big A. And then it doesn't matter what I call the other ones. So I'm going to call this one here big B. And I'm going to call this one here little b outside. And then this one here, which I don't know, is big C. And this one here opposite is little c. So I've labelled my triangle there like so. So labelling obviously what I want, which is this X over here, as A. Now in this one, you might think to yourself, well, why do I need to do this next part? But we're doing something which is called the cosine rule later. So to help you with this, the next thing you need to do is your need and got list. Your need and got list, like so. So what do I need and what have I actually got? Now in this case, I need little a. I need little a, which is this one down here. And the things that I've got are capital A. I've also got capital B. And I've also got little b here. Okay? So I've done my need and got list. Now this is the important question. This here, this next little question is literally the key to all of trigonometry. Okay? If you can do all the rest, some people struggle to figure out whether they're using the sine or the cosine rule. Now this part here is what's going to make the difference. So the question is, and this is really, really important, do I have a matching pair in my got list? This is really important. Do I have a matching pair in my got list? Do I have a matching pair in my got list? And if the answer to that is yes, then we use the sine rule. Okay? Do I have a matching pair in my got list? Yes, so I use the sine rule. Okay? Now later on when we do the cosine rule, if the answer to this question is no, then we need to use the cosine rule. But for now, because we're just sticking with sine, the answer is always going to be yes, isn't it? So, okay, so we know that we're using the sine rule now because we've got a matching pair in our got list. So the next thing I need to do is to figure out whether I'm working out the sides or the angles. Well, here I'm trying to find out this a, which is the sides. So I'm going to write it with the lowercase a on top. So it's going to be a over sine of capital A is equal to b over sine of capital B is equal to c over sine of capital C. And then I substitute in everything I've got. So a is x, so it's x over sine of a, which is 64, is equal to b, which is 10, over the angle for b, which is sine of 51, which is equal to, now notice that I don't have any c's, okay? So because I don't have any c's, it means that I'm not using that. So you can even before this, before you've even done this one here, you can just cross off C there. And that's what I'd probably suggest that you do. Because we've got no C's involved, so I'm not using C, so let's cross that off there. And there's my formula. Make this a little bit smaller so I can solve it. So I've got x over sine 64 is equal to 10 over sine 51. So if I want x on its own, I need to get rid of that sine 64. And I do that by timesing up by sine of 64. Okay, I'm getting rid of that denominator by timesing by it. So my final equation is this. X is equal to 10 over sine of 51 times by sine of 64. And then we can work that what is on our calculator. So let's do that on our calculator. Over here. So I probably do, you don't need a big bracket there. You can just go fraction button, 10 over sine, which is here, we know, of 51, times by sine of 64. Close the brackets, equals, there we go, nice and easy if you know what you're doing. So I'm going to do it to one decimal place, which in this case is 13.7. So 13.7 centimetres. Nice and straightforward. So I'll just very quickly go through what I've done there. I've labelled my triangle, labelling what you want as A. So in this case, the X I labelled as A. I then wrote my need and got list, very similar to trigonometry, SOHCAHTOA, sorry. And I asked the question, do I have a matching pair in my got list? If the answer is yes, then I'm going to be using the sine rule. So let's write the sine rule down, which is going to be A over sine A, B over sine B, C over sine C. Substitute everything in, times up by that denominator, and then it leaves you with 13.7. There, like so. Brilliant. Super. Let me just check that. Ah, look at that. Mr. Adams made little sneaks. I think I've just realised that my calculator was in radians mode and not degrees. See up here at the top right, notice how it says that tiny little r. So you've got to be careful of that. So I need to click on mode, and I need to put it, in fact, not mode. I need to go to setup, shift, setup, and I actually want my calculator in degrees mode, not radians mode. So if I do that, I actually get a different answer. 10 over 51 times by sine of 64, which is actually equal to 11.56. Let me just check that. Shift, mode, in degrees. Yeah, which is, sorry, it's my fault. It's because my calculator was in radians, because I've been doing some A-level maths. Okay, so which I need to change it, but we're doing 11 times by 5.6. Let me just change this. So that's going to be 11.6, isn't it? .6 centimetres there. Just double check that. 11.6, yeah, brilliant. Okay, have a little go at that one on the right-hand side yourself. See if you can follow all the steps. But have a little go at that one on the right-hand side yourself. Okay, so let's have a little look at this one then. So first of all, remember, the first thing I've got to do is always label what you want as A. So I want X, so I'm going to label this as little a, which means that this is capital A. I'm going to label this one as capital B, opposite here is little b, and this one here is capital C, opposite here is little c. Okay? So then I do my need and got list. Need/got. And what I need in this case is little case a, and what I've got is capital B, little b, and I've also got capital A. Brilliant. So this is the important part, isn't it? Have I got a matching pair in my get that there again. Have I got a matching pair in my got list? If the answer to that is yes, I'm going to write it out again. just going to write it out. Have I got a matching pair in my got list? Have I got a matching pair in my got list? The answer to that is yes, so I'm using the sine rule. So let's write down what the sine rule is. So the sine rule, because I'm working out the sides, is A over sine of capital A is equal to B over sine of capital B is equal to C over sine of capital C. Let's sub in everything I've got. X is what I'm trying to find. So X over sine of 40 is equal to B, which is 6, over sine of 113. And I'm not using C, so let's cross off C. Then the last little part is to times up by the sine 40. So X is equal to 6 over sine of 113 times by sine of 40 there, like so. Let's work out what that is on the calculator. So fraction button first, 6 over sine of 113 close brackets times by sine of 40, which in this case is 4.2. So X is equal to 4.2 centimetres. Brilliant. Well done to everybody, got that right. Alright, so there's our two answers for those. Alright, let's have a look at this question then. So this one here is example 2. Get this one down as example 2. So get this one down as example 2. Alright, well notice with this one, the difference is that we're not trying to find the side, we're trying to find the angle. Now, just a little hint, we have done this before, but just in case you forgot, we're going to need to know what the inverse, let's put that down there a second, I'll come back to that in a second. We need to know what the inverse of sine, cos and tan are. Okay, well in this case it's just sine, so I might just put sine and cos. So the inverse of sine is sine to the -1, we know that. And the inverse of cos is cos to the -1. There we go. The inverse of sine is sine to the -1, and we know the inverse of cos is cos to the -1. So get those down, you will need those. You should know that already, but just in case you didn't. Okay, let's have a look at this one together. Now I'm going to go through this one here. So the first thing I need to do is to label my triangle. So remember to always label what you want as A, that's the trick. And if I want this angle, I'm going to label this as capital A. Opposite here is the side which is lowercase a. This angle here, I'm going to label as B. And opposite here is going to be little b. And then this one here is C. And this one here, opposite, is little c. Brilliant. Okay. So I've labelled my triangle. Next thing I need to do is to do my need/got list. So obviously I need, in this case, capital A. And I've got lowercase a, I've got uppercase B, and I've got lowercase b there, like so. So the question, I'm always going to write this down just so we can remember it. Do I have a matching pair in my got list? Do I have a matching pair in my got list? It's really important, that. Okay, do I have a matching pair in my got list? And we know that the answer to this case is yes, so I'm going to be using the sine rule. So, because I'm trying to work out the angles here, I'm going to use that other formula which I talked about, which was this. Sine of capital A over A is equal to sine of B over little b is equal to sine of C over little c, like so. Brilliant. And then I'm going to substitute in everything I know. So sine of capital A, well, capital A in this case is Z, so I'll put sine of Z, all over little a, which is 10, is equal to sine of B, which is 117, all over lowercase b, which is 12. You can see that I'm not involving C, so let's cross off C there. I haven't got any C's involved, so I'm getting rid of that. Brilliant. So the next thing I need to do is to get rid of this 10 on the bottom. And I do that by timesing by 10, which gives me this. Sine of Z is equal to this, which is sine of 117 over 12 times by 10. Now I've not quite finished here, and I think you probably know why that is. I don't want to try and find out what sine of Z is. I want to find out what just Z is, exactly what the angle is. So this part here, this is what I'm dealing with. Let's copy it and move it. So sine of Z. So to get rid of the sine here, I know that the inverse of sine is sine to the minus 1. So if I want to do Z and I want to find out what Z is, this is going to be the formula. Z is equal to sine to the minus 1 of all of this. So sine of 117 over 12 times by the 10. Okay? So you've got everything on that right hand side, but you've still got to get rid of that sine. Now, you can, if you want to, work that out as a decimal and then do sine to the minus 1 of that. But I've done it all in one step and wrote it all out. So let's have a look at this together then. I'll show you how to do it in your calculator. So we've got our calculator. Make sure we're in degrees mode, not in anything else. So the first thing I need to do is the sine to the minus 1 here. So shift sine to the minus 1 of open bracket. Now, you notice there's a fraction here, so we press the fraction button next. Now, of sine of 117. Now, with this one here, it's not sine to the minus 1, it's just sine of 117, close the bracket, all over 12, right, times by 10, now close the bracket. There we go. So just to check, sine to the minus 1 of sine of 117 over 12 times by 10, and that's equal to 47.9 to 1 decimal place. Brilliant. So 47.9 to 1 decimal place. Brilliant. So have a little go at that one on the right hand side then. Have a little go at that one on the right hand side. Brilliant. So let's have a little look at this one together then. Really impressed. So here we've got to label our side. So let's label this one here. Capital A, capital B, little b, capital C, little c. So labeling what you want as A. I do my need and got list, which in this case I need capital A, sorry. I've got little a, I've got capital B, and I've got little b. Okay. The important question, we know it's the same every time. Do I have a matching pair in my got list? Okay, do I have a matching pair in my got list? If the answer to that is yes, then I use the sine rule. Now I know that I'm trying to find my angle, so in which case I'm going to do the angle on top. So it's sine of A over little a is equal to sine of B over little b is equal to sine of C over little c. Let's substitute in everything. In this case, it's going to be sine of y all over little a is 5, which is equal to sine of capital B, which is 116, all over little b, which is 7. Times up by that 5, I've got sine of y is equal to sine of 116 over 7 times by 5. And the last little part is I need to get rid of that sign on the left hand side. So it's going to be y is equal to sine to the minus 1 of all of this, which is sine of 116 over 7 times by 5. There, like so. So let's just put that in our calculator. So shift sine to the minus 1 of the fraction button, which is sine of 116, close the bracket, all over 7 times by 5. Close the bracket, there we go. 39.9 in this case. So y is equal to 39.9 degrees. Brilliant. Super. Let's check those answers. Perfect.